we appreciate the opportunity to come, and what we would like to do is tell you what we know based on everything we've done over the last couple of months at least. It's probably been 3 months since I visited you out here in the backyard, looked at the creek again. Tell you everything we know, tell you what we think the solution is, options to pay for it. We've got two aerials that we'll use to kind of go through all this. The first is maybe one you're familiar with. It was taken in the fall of 2006. Here's Pepperdine Court, and this is Fishpot Creek, what it's doing near your subdivision. And the Stockwell's home is this home, and Mr. and Mrs. Cox live right here next door, so gives you an orientation of sort of where we are.
Okay.
So you get a big towel.
When was this taken?
This is fall 2006.
2006.
And it's just, we've used this sort of for orientation purposes and looking at what that creek's been doing over a period of time.
I understand it's been moved back. This is the Stockwell's fence. This was the survey from
April
a month ago, 2 months ago.
2006.
A year ago, 2006.
There you go. Well, the aerial's 2006. We've actually
And then the guys came out.
The survey from a couple months ago.
Oh, the survey. Oh, the
Yeah, I think they were here in early May, perhaps.
Right. So the orange is where the fences are. The white is actually where the channel happens to be right now. Everything that comes up here, this indicates the top of the channel, the tops of these squigglies right here, and then down to the bottom, which indicates the location of the bottom of the channel as it exists right now.
And the yellow the yellow dotted line?
The yellow dotted line is a 100-year flood reservation line that was laid out when it was platted as part of the common ground, and there were restrictions such as you couldn't build in that area, those types of things.
Okay.
It's part of the plat, and it's something that shows up as part of the property restrictions. This is the common ground owned by the trustees, Pepper Tree Village Trustees Common Ground. And then within that there was a 100-year floodplain restricted area. And there were restrictions such as, again, you couldn't build anything on it. There are just things that you couldn't do within that restriction.
On this side?
On that side of that line. This is one of the first things we do on most of these. We take a survey to make sure we understand what's laying out here right now. Now that we had that information, we have aerial photos of this. We have aerial photos of where the creek was. We started doing some evaluations as to, first of all, were there any short-term, quick-type solutions and fixes. The two things you can do is you can stabilize the bank somehow to keep the erosion from happening. And there's things you look at. One, will it stand? And two, are you just going to move the problem somewhere else? And the other things you can do are kind of like veins to help dissipate energy. And an example I would give, if you've ever gone across the Missouri River, when the river's low, you see these veins of rocks that stick into the river. They help dissipate energy. And energy is what causes the erosion. So we took a look at how possible some of the short-term solutions were, such as reinforcing the toe of the slopes and doing those veins. Quick analysis was there wasn't any short-term, low-cost fixes that would actually relieve this situation. You've got the erosion going on, you've got slope stability, or I guess bank stability issues with what's there right now, and there wasn't anything we could put in. It wasn't just either going to be eaten behind or eaten above and just keep doing what it's doing now. In fact, if you put in a small solution to try and do something that, you will actually make the situation worse because you've got less cross-sectional area. You could actually accelerate the situation if you do the wrong short-term solution. So we couldn't find anything there. We went through and did an analysis, and the next analysis involved kind of the morphology and hydrology of the entire creek as to what could be done. We took a look at photos all the way since 1955. In general, the creek itself is kind of the same way it's been for at least the last 60 years, in a macro scale. And that's part of the morphology, is trying to figure out what's this creek trying to do. There are no significant changes that we could see in the creek over the last 60 years. So you take that along with analysis of what's out here. The solution is to take this what the creek is naturally doing. Creeks will naturally move, and it's called sinuosity. They will work their way down a floodplain. They may move from one side to the other. And the solution that we've come up with that will work is to leave the bottom of that slope where it's at, the bottom of the slope, and then cut this back. Cut the slope back here at a grade that's stable, reinforce it with things like, it's called biostabilization, some kind of natural stabilization, so that when the water comes through and the energy comes through with the water, its vegetation will naturally hold that slope, and that slope won't go anywhere. That is probably the ultimate solution. It works with the natural movement of the creek. It doesn't move the problem somewhere else. And it's also a solution that will make sure that particular site stays stable and doesn't get any worse. So that's what we've come up with as being the ultimate solution here to take care of this.
So it's doing something right up here and like
it would be cutting
because the
slope.
water comes like down to there and it goes all the way down this wall here. And you would do what now?
Well, the idea would be to leave this point about the same. You would slope this back. You actually have to cut into this a little bit to kind of key into the bottom of the slope.
So it would be like instead of a cliff, it would be a steep slope,
Right.
basically into the creek.
Was it 3 to 1?
3 to 1, I think.
I think about 3 to 1. So in other words, for every 3 feet long, it would come up 1 foot.
And important in here is the buyouts.
Well, yeah, and the reason for the 3 to 1 is besides just the work of the water eroding things, you also have to make the slope stable enough just to stand on its own.
I don't
once
see.
it's saturated.
How do you get? I'm sorry. How do you get that like at my place next door where
Well,
it's so close?
the
The
ultimate
caveat
solution.
is homes have to be bought out. And how many, we're not sure. It takes a design to do that. We haven't gone that far. We've analyzed it as far as we can on a preliminary basis. Correct me if I say anything.
No, go ahead.
But you know, 3 to 5 homes probably have to be bought out. You know, and the thinking is, we get that done, we preserve Pepperdine Court, the street. We don't know how far this creek will go unchecked. So some homes are going to have to probably be bought out to get a solution that prevents the further migration of that creek in a way that just jeopardizes more and more homes.
Will the price be market value, or what are you looking at on the buyout?
Well, we've done some buyouts. You want to describe?
Yeah, the process is we go through, and on properties that are this large, we would get 2 independent appraisals. We keep 4 appraisal firms under contract, and depending on the exact expertise that's needed for a particular situation, we'll use two appraisals to try and make sure we get a fair price.